Welcome to the Music Maker's Cookbook, the podcast that helps independent artists cook up recipes for success in the music industry. I am Sean.
I'm Brandon.
Brandon, real quick question. At the top of every episode, we like to do kind of a question for each other and also a question for the audience to leave a comment and answer. It's kind of food related and music related. Try to stay on brand and have some fun here. If you were going to host a dinner party, what kind of songs would be on your playlist?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, I just so funny because Eric was up here doing a project last week, and I sent him. He was like, "Give me some albums to listen to." I was like, "You won't like to listen to my albums." He's like, "No, just send them." I was like, "All right." So I sent him a whole barrage of albums, and I haven't heard back about most of them, so I'm just gonna assume he heard some of them and turned them off. So like very.
Give the warning.
I did give him the warning.
He ain't gonna like it.
Yeah. I did give him the warning, and
That reminds me of like the potion sellers meme. You remember that?
No.
Potion seller, I require strongest potion. You can't handle my strongest potions. Music maker, I require your strongest albums. You can't handle the strongest
You cannot
albums.
handle those. You cannot handle my albums, dude.
Brandon's a secret metalhead. I think that's what you're referring to right now.
Very
isn't
much
it?
so. Yeah, very much so. It's not like anything like crazy, like the grindcore or anything like that, but it's
But it could be.
There's definitely blast beats in there sometimes. But it's not like the pig squeals and all that good stuff.
You
Yeah, it's
recorded
just not my
blast
thing.
beats?
No, I have never done it.
I have.
Really?
Trying to edit them when you record live drums. It's hard.
Yeah, I could only imagine.
Takes
I
a
can
lot
only
of practice
imagine.
to get good at that kind of playing.
No, seriously. Yeah, no, that's difficult. But yeah, I mean, that's a great question though. Like specific songs, it's really tough to come up with like a specific like plate.
I mean, you can give like genre, like something loose right now.
Yeah, I think
Like
right.
what's the theme of the dinner party, I guess.
Totally. I think right now for me, as we enter into fall, would be more metalcore stuff for me personally. Just this seems to be the time that I like to indulge more into metalcore. Very specific albums like Reflections, The Color Clear is like a very fall vibe to me. It is very dark and sad. The lyrics are very sad. And that's one of the albums I sent to Eric. I don't think he listened to that one. I gave him little disclaimers and descriptions so he wouldn't waste his time,
Every single one. You're not gonna like this, but you're not gonna like this, but
And I also sent him a City in Color one, which I can't remember the name of it, but it's like one of my all-time favorite albums by him. I can't remember the fucking name. But this one's another fall vibe, so it's like kind of like maybe the pairing to go with it, So that's kind of the meal that I'm putting out at the moment since we're transitioning into fall right now. So that's what I would do. What about you, Sean?
pumpkin spice and
I haven't had
metal
my
music.
PSL yet, dude. So Heather came over yesterday, and she was like, "Hey,
wait. It's just accepted now that the abbreviation is understood.
yeah."
God
And
damn, what a sight to come to.
and before she came over, she's like, "Hey, I'm stopping at Tim Hortons. Do you want anything?" I was like, "No." And she's like, "I'm getting a pumpkin spice latte." I was like, "I will get killed if I have one before Tessa and I have one together." So I was like, "No, I'm good. I can't do that to her. I can't do it."
For the longevity and the health of our relationship, I'm gonna have to turn down that off.
That's like our thing is like we'll get one first together and then we'll have our own whenever,
Cool. But you gotta cross that
But we have to
barrier.
do that first. Yeah.
Linking arms and stepping at the same time.
That's the law.
Gotcha.
That's the law of the land.
Haven't you done it yet then, man?
Just kind of forgot, honestly, at this point. There's no Starbucks up
there's
north
your reminder.
either. Yeah, right. And like maybe this weekend will be the weekend to do it. I'm kind of feeling it a little bit. Grubhub also gave us a 20% off coupon that we can maybe finagle into the order somehow.
There you go.
Save some money because I'm cheap.
How else can you afford all this audio gear?
That's pretty much. And
That desk was $48,000 back in the day.
Yes, thank you.
Not
Thank
now,
you.
but back in the day.
Thank you. And why is the mic falling?
We gotta boil it. But no,
going back into the
that's a good
pot.
one. I like that theme.
Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
the same way. I'd go fall, but I'm gonna go a different direction. I'd probably do something that's kind of a mix of like the head and the heart, and something like kind of like softer fall.
Hell yeah.
Kind of like folk.
Yeah.
pop
Oh
kind
yeah.
of vibe.
Definitely folk vibes for sure.
Yeah. I mean that's what I do. So I just need to listen more of it anyways. But
I have this really cool. Sorry to cut you off. I guess a lot has happened.
go for it.
We were Marcus and I. We were working on this track yesterday. As you
Shout out
see,
Marcus.
I've been in a lot of sessions recently, and we were working on this track yesterday, and he like found this indie album that was really cool that I want to show you. It's very folky, and very weird and by like an unknown person.
And we need to share some music after this.
It's cool though. It's really cool.
This is what the questions do. It like shares some music.
Yeah,
around.
exactly. I really like the tones that he got on it. I know he definitely ran it through like a reel to reel some way, shape or form. It just sounds really nice and fall vibes. So maybe I'll share that with you and you can check it out. It's no one big, but like the music's really cool.
We could go on and on about this. So even though I've got like 3 more things I could say, I feel like it's good to move on while Brandon's struggling with the clip, the tightening of the mic stand. We should just like hold them in our hands, you know?
We really should at
and
this
just
point.
like free form it.
I think this would be better for me at this point.
I mean, if you want to go for it, go ahead. But with that being said, let us know what music you would put on your dinner party and what kind of music suits your fall vibes, I guess. That's kind of a question within a question, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally.
But anyways, today's episode, we're going to be focusing on how to kind of start a band. I was posted 2 weeks ago at this point, a podcast episode about collaboration ideas with artists. And then a client I worked with reached out to me and he said, hey man, when I saw the episode title, I clicked on it thinking it was like how to get other people to, you know, listen to your music and join your group, but it wasn't about that. And he's like, well, I'm in Slovakia and there's like nobody around. I mentioned I do a lot of remote mixing and mastering. So sometimes when you have to do like work with the remote musicians, they're not so prime situations like in major cities like New York or Nashville or not necessarily in the country, like Slovakia. Yeah. But he was saying how he has a hard time finding musicians and doesn't really know where to start in order to build a band or to get people to play on his albums. And asked that we kind of look into that and make an episode about it. So this is to you. This episode is going to be focusing on that.
Hell yeah.
How to find musicians out there.
I think that's a great question, a very common question.
I agree.
Too. Yeah.
But because we're doing this, if there's anything that you want us to tackle, make sure to leave a comment and let us know. But diving right into it, before we even talk about, go to this app, go to this social media thing, go to these places to find musicians. First, we need to talk about the mindset, like what you need to have before asking somebody to join. It's not as simple as saying, hey, join my band, because that's a one-sided proposition. You're saying, take time out of your busy schedule, your day, and work on my music. You have to have something that you are offering in return. Sometimes if it's like just for session musicians, it's money, but mainly it's your vision. What you can offer is your vision. So defining what you want your music to be is very important.
Yeah, and this can also be a very natural thing too. Like, and we're not really speaking to the thing where it's like, oh, if you're in high school and you're friends with somebody and you're jamming with them and all of a sudden you're just like both like, let's create a band, right? Well, this is more like we're past the high school point and we want to find other people to reach out to play the music that we want to play. So this becomes more of a professional thing at this point, right? And so I just wanted to clear up the fairy tale beginning that we all have when we're in high school, which is awesome and can be magical. But like if we're not in a place that has people around us, which we've been blessed to have. We've had a lot of people in this area, right? So I can't even imagine maybe like where this guy is in Slovakia, where how desolate it could be.
But even an area like us, sometimes musicians have a hard time. Like I know Kevin's been trying to get a drummer for a long time.
That's true. And it always seems like the drummers are the hardest ones too. No, I'm not even joking. Like it just seems so hard to find a drummer, you know? And maybe that's because of the scarcity of them and they're busy. They're all busy. They're all busy. So like Shaw was saying, when you approach somebody to join a band with you, join their band, right? Or join your band. Join your band. You have to bring something to the table that is enticing for them, right? Because like Sean said, it is very one-sided. So you have to have kind of like a clear vision of what you want to do with this band. And obviously that entails a lot of different things. And that we're going to start going over sequentially now.
Yeah, it really starts with what do you see the vision of your band being? Do you want to be a session band that just goes in the studio once a year and puts out an album? Do you want to be a touring band? Well, then you need somebody who's willing to go and travel with you. Do you want to just kind of be like a local band that rehearses once every other week and plays on the weekend? Cover band, original music. You have to have defined what your goals are with your music. And we're not saying you need like a 15, 20-year plan.
No, this isn't like a business plan necessarily. But like it's the starting of a business plan.
It is, yeah. It needs to be not a short term, but a but not long term, like somewhere in the middle, like maybe 1 to 3 years. Of being like, hey, these are our goals. If you want to be a touring national band, that's probably going to be a 3-5 year time frame that you're going to be looking
Absolutely.
at. And you're going to have to approach people when you say, hey, join my band, that, hey, this is my goal. This is where we're going. If you don't agree with this, then don't join my band.
Yep.
But if it is something that they want as well, that's enticing. You're offering them that lifestyle as a musician of touring, of being a national act, of traveling, and of playing all the time.
Yeah. And this is, would you say that this is a good place to start setting boundaries if you're a person that's getting approached?
I would say so.
I would say so,
but please
too.
elaborate.
What I mean by that is these things often tend to balloon. And what I mean by that is you get somebody that's like, hey, let's create this band. We're going to be playing one show a month. We're going to practice once a week. And if things go right, then maybe we can explore more later. And that's where it becomes fishy because it's always open-ended, right? So you kind of have to have strong boundaries here where you're like, hey, if this does amount to something, I'm willing to explore this further. But at this time, I can't commit more than fill in the blank, right? If you're the person getting approached, right? Like, so if you're on the other side of the aisle in this and somebody approaches you, maybe this is how you handle it because all of a sudden those once a week band practices become 3 times a week, and then it starts really eating up your time, right? And especially if you're not making some kind of return on this can be a very taxing thing if you need that source of income or whatever the case may be from this. Yeah.
If that's not what you signed up for, then you don't want to get yourself committed to things that, aren't necessarily going to be what you want. I mean, a lot of times, especially if you're going to be staying in the local scene or you're making like a cover band or whatever your situation may be, whatever band you're trying to do, oftentimes places that hire you, be it bars or venues or whatnot, they'll hire for quarters or for the full year in advance of that happening and try to fill out their schedule so they can put out like a promotional thing or whatever it may be. So sometimes if you be like, yeah, you know what, I'll be part of this. And then the guy who's in charge of it is like, all right, cool. Well, I just booked us 5 shows a month for the next year. It's like, well, I didn't sign up for that. But now they're contractually obligated to, and they're going to put pressure. It's like, well, you said yes. And like, I'm under contract here. I can't back out of this.
Right.
So it's like, setting that boundary of like, well, I don't want to be open-ended. And that also showcases the fact that if you can approach someone with a clear idea, a clear vision of what your goals are with music, it is more appealing because it's not open-ended. It's like, hey, this is my goal. This is what I want to achieve. And if they're all aboard, they're going to help you achieve it.
Totally.
If you say, yeah, I want to perform 8 shows a month. Right now, like I'm getting like 1 or 2, and they want to be part of a band that's playing 8 shows a month. They're like, oh yeah, well, I know this buddy who has a friend who has a venue, so like we'll hit them up. And then also like we'll hit up this guy who also played this other venue, who are my stepbrothers in this band who plays here a lot. Let's hit them up.
Yeah.
They're gonna, since they're aligned vision wise with you, they're gonna help you achieve your vision as well. Yeah, but it's so important knowing what you're going to, like what your goals are going into it. Otherwise, it'd be like inviting somebody over for dinner when you don't know what you're going to make and you haven't started cooking when they arrive.
So true.
They're just like, well, what the hell? Like, what are we going to eat? There's nothing.
Like, oh, what do you want? Like, it's like, I don't know. You said you were
invited
making dinner.
Me. Yeah, you said you're making dinner. So like,
the hell?
What? Nothing's presented.
Right,
what the hell?
Right.
So like, you got to get cooking before they show up.
I like that.
Yeah.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. No, totally agree. This will also alleviate any issues like you were saying kind of in the future. Like if you do decide to take on more shows, then you know yourself that this was a conversation up front, right? And it's not a surprise. Or if you decide to not take more shows, they know that this is what you presented in the beginning as well. And things change. This is obviously open-ended on your part, if you're the one getting approached, but make sure that you have those strict boundaries in place forefront, because that can save some headaches in the future.
Yeah. And if things do change, going back to communication, this is where bands either continue or they die. Yeah. Where it's like, hey, this is my music. We've been doing this for the past year locally, and I'm having a lot of fun, but I really want to try taking this nationally. I want to go touring. Are you in or out? And just being clearly communicative about it versus like, hey, I respect your time. I know this isn't what you signed up for. This is my new goal. Is there a way that you're still involved or not? And sometimes they are, and sometimes they're not. Yep. So you just got to be open to the possibility of them having to leave and having to start that process over again of finding somebody else to join in. And yeah, so like now that you have your clear goal, you know what your goals are as a band, as an artist, time to start setting out the innovate. invitations.
Yeah, and
Reaching out to people.
Yeah,
Time to get extroverted here.
This is like a classic thing. Like, have you heard of the story with Metallica and like how they found like all their members or whatever, or like maybe how they found Lars? I think. They put out a newspaper ad and they're like, "Hey, we're looking for a drummer." And this is probably back in early '80s, late '70s.
Probably newspaper ads was a good way to do it. Back in the day.
Exactly. And I think Lars found it and contacted him, and then they auditioned and they came up with Metallica. And like, it's a very valid way to do this. Yeah. Obviously, in this digital age, it might be a little bit different, and we're going to go over a couple ways to do that.
Yeah, specifically how to send out those invitations digitally.
Yep. And then, like, more so now, it's easier to become more spammy like that, too. So you kind of got to frame these correctly in order to meet kind of like any interest, I guess, back into it, because there are a lot of people that want to collaborate online. Just trust me. You just fucking make a music page, and then you'll get 8 DMs from bots that want to collaborate with you.
I'm part of a couple like groups and things on Facebook and whatnot, and you get a bunch of things like, "Hey, I'm trying to make a band. I play this kind of music. Hit me up."
Yep.
And it's like, okay, well, as we said earlier, there's no defined vision. There's no what you're offering.
It's just
the other musicians, just one-sided. So no one's going to hit you up. So
absolutely.
Once you have, like, as we said, once you have it defined, send out the invitations, be it in person or digital. But like in person, like networking locally, talking to musicians, it can be kind of, until you get used to doing it, it can be kind of nerve-wracking to do.
Very much so.
Especially like if you're going into a place you're not familiar with, or you have no intermediate to introduce you to anybody in the band. You're just like walking up to the venue and being like, "Hey,
cold outreach, pretty much.
Who here plays music?"
Yeah. Who likes music? Raise your hand. It's like, oh,
you're at a concert. Everyone's gonna.
Of course, everyone's gonna like music there.
But like, you just enjoy it. You're a guitarist. I'm a guitarist. I don't need you. You're gonna have to talk to a lot of people. That's a lot of grunt work there.
Oh yeah, very
so
much
be prepared.
So. Yeah,
be prepared to do that.
Yeah,
and also like the elevator pitch, that whole thing. If you have 30 seconds to let me know about your business, that whole thing, you kind of have to do the same thing with your music. You have 30 seconds to tell somebody about your band, what your goals are, and what you're trying to do. So, we're going to make a lot of pop rock music similar to this artist and this artist, like a fusion of them, which, by the way, we had an episode earlier that kind of briefed over, like, describing your music in 30 seconds or less.
Yes, we have.
And a great way to do it is, say, like, you're a combination of two popular artists that people who you would want to be a part of your band would recognize. So that way it gets them excited and gets them to paint a picture of what kind of music you're looking to create. So like, I'm a combination of these two artists with like this kind of focus. I'm looking to tour nationally. I've got 5 songs already created, but I'm in the process for 3 more. Like, what do you offer? What are you giving? What are you prepared with right off the bat?
Totally. Yeah.
And that's how you pitch yourself real quickly, real effectively, and then immediately discredit people or get them interested and be like, "Oh yeah, well, cool. I'd love to audition with you or jam with you sometime."
Yeah.
And continue the conversation from there.
At this step, don't be afraid of rejection at this point, because you will face a lot of rejection here.
So to really wrap up, like, networking locally, because like a big focus of this is going to be on online, because that's where really the opportunities are really endless, honestly.
Yeah.
But just real quick, if you don't know where to look locally or how to start finding other people locally, some quick suggestions is you can go to local venues or open mic nights. Open mic nights, you can specifically talk to other artists that are performing there. Other venues don't necessarily talk to the bands that are performing, but a lot of times they may know people, or people in the crowd might be fans of them. And if they're fans of that music and that's the kind of music that you make, which specifically you want to go to concerts that are music relating to what you make, you can find a bunch of like-minded musicians and people there that at least might have connections to other artists who are looking to be in a band or join that kind of music. Another place is music shops. A lot of times if you see a drummer practicing on a drum kit in the drum room of a Guitar Center, you can help go in and say like, "Hey man, like, you sound pretty good. Like, tell me a bit about yourself." Start that conversations. You in any bands? Where you're local? What kind of music you like to make? And you can kind of start things like that. I know I've met people locally who have started bands or met bandmates from a Guitar Center and places like that.
And then like their little bulletin boards they have in back where you can put your business card up there and stuff like that. And like the ads and stuff.
Exactly.
Yep.
So like especially the small local ones, you can hit them up and say, "Hey, can I put like this advertisement in your window?" And a lot of local venues, they're cool. They'll let you do that.
Yeah.
So those are kind of real quick some local places that you can kind of get the ball rolling if you don't necessarily know where to go or how to put yourself out there.
Totally.
To get people in your area. Now, specifically, like we mentioned, the guy who gave us this idea to begin with in Slovakia, who doesn't have anybody really around him. Let's kind of now focus more on the online aspect of it. How can you get people who are further away but who want to be part of a band, be it more of in a digital sense of the matter?
Yeah.
How do we get them involved?
Yeah, well, this one is a little tougher just in different ways, right?
Completely different.
Both have their challenges to them. Of course, online is difficult in the sense that where do you even begin, right? What do you look for specifically online? The thing about online that is nice though is that you can do it all from your laptop, right? Which is really convenient. So first things first, we had mentioned this a little bit previously, is the Facebook groups is like number one, just because you can be so in communication there. And what I mean by that is just very intimate setting, right?
Oh, yeah.
Go to somebody's personal profile, message them that way. You can just message them on the actual group itself. Just make sure you're following the group rules. So if you can't actually, to contact anybody outside of the group, you don't want to be kicked out from that resource, then, make sure you oblige by that. But I would say Facebook groups are probably almost number one in this category.
I think they are number one, hands down.
Yeah,
There's so many.
And, there's just an abundance of people that just want to play music on there, which is really nice, and it's all connected, right? And what I mean by that is like there's not any anonymity on there, so you're not hiding behind like a Reddit account or something, something that's fishy, a Craigslist account where anybody can post, right? Yeah. You see what you get here, and the chat and honestly, I think you can video chat on there too. Obviously, I've never done it personally, but you can call people on there, and it like that is like the hub, like number one, first foremost. And what's nice about that is like you can actually be very specific. Like let's say the guy that asked the question, he's on Slovakia. Let's say he finds a Slovakian page that is like, local people around this city. Then he can travel 3 hours to go and meet them possibly, which is really cool. So that opens it up to actually being local too. So you kind of have nice flip side of the coin on these guys. Yeah.
And if you don't know how to search it, I recommend looking anything location followed by the word musicians to find a Facebook group. And I went through at least a dozen states before we recorded this, and like Wisconsin musicians, Michigan musicians, New York musicians. And when I searched for it, there were some groups that were just like, hey, there's musicians groups. Yeah. But most of them were like musicians wanted, connection band, like specifically built for forming these groups. And then when I just searched the broad location, it even said like East Michigan, West Michigan, Northern Michigan.
Yeah, very specific regions.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, this is the states where we are. Let me look up something else. I looked up like Ireland musicians, and it specifically went to like Dublin and different cities that were in Ireland. Yeah. So if there's like a big city or something that's maybe even a small city or like the southeastern area, wherever you live, if you just search that, there may be people on there. There may be a forum that's closer, that's got people closer to you than you think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a way to kind of turn potentially an online group into getting actual musicians to jam together, make music together. Totally. But starting at a place online. Yeah. Any location followed by musicians, you are going to find groups and subgroups.
Absolutely. I think this is great. Just in terms of like online collaboration, and like I think like if you want to stay online, you don't have to get specific regions or where you're at, where you're located. Like, let's just say you're out in the middle of absolute nowhere and you can't drive to a place that has access to these amenities, right? Yeah. Or like a hub or of some sort, right? Let's just say it's just 6 hours away and you don't want to drive that far. There are groups on there that do have just remote collaboration on there. And there are tools online to help facilitate that, between you guys. You could try to hop on a video call, but then you're going to be dealing with latency. It's going to be really tough. There are solutions out there that do have better capabilities, albeit probably not perfect. I've never used one to collaborate in terms of like playing together. I've used some to collaborate in terms of like mixed feedback and stuff like that.
Yeah, jumping in on the session, but not necessarily like jamming digitally live.
Exactly. Because that's a challenge.
You have to have a very powerful, strong internet connection in order to do that. And also like you have to rely on the person you're talking with to know how to record.
Yes.
And how to gain match and set level. So that's something that you do miss Whereas when you go online, if they're local, you can be like, okay, cool, let's save up some money, go to a studio, someone who knows how to do it properly. If you're going purely online, that's a good point.
Yeah.
They have to know all that stuff in addition to just being a musician.
Exactly. And then have the computer to do so.
Yeah.
Right? That too, on top of it. And not only that, but like you made a good point is the internet connection. If you're likely in the middle of nowhere, your connection probably isn't all that great, to be totally honest, because you're probably on satellite like most of the time or on some kind of tower. Like there's no broadband, you know. So this is going to be a little challenging, but we're going to try to help you navigate through it and do the best that we possibly can. 100%. We're not here to discourage at all, you know. So I just wanted to put that out there as a little disclaimer before we go any further, that this is, like I said, this comes with its own challenges.
And that's a good point, because it makes you think, like, as you said earlier, you have to define what you want to be as a band. If you want to jam and play with other musicians, I mean, it might just not really be in the cards. If you're going to find these musicians, they might have to be okay, I will send them a rough track, have them compose and record on top of it as a completely remote musician.
Totally.
Get it back to me, and then like you make the music that way with basically freelance musicians. And then like if they're interested enough in your music or whatnot, you can say like, hey, do you want to be part of the band? And like do like royalty split for payment or whatever versus just a session musician. But if you just want other musicians to put their mark on your music, then just shop around, find some session musicians you like online. And then have like those be your go-to, like, oh, well, this is just my drummer. I always hit him up when I need something recorded because he's on all my other tracks and he knows my music at this point. Or, oh, this is my bassist or my mixing engineer or whatever. Yeah,
totally. And before we go any further into the freelancer platforms, I want to mention the three quick apps that everybody knows about right now. Zoom, Google Meet, and FaceTime, right? You can try that route with jamming, like you were kind of talking about and alluding to earlier, with jamming with people.
But too big.
The latency is just going to be massive. So it's going to be one of those things where one person's playing and the other person's listening, and then the other person plays it back and the other person's listening. That is a very quick Band-Aid solution to that. But you don't get the feeling of playing together. So like that. So if you're just writing music, like Sean was saying, like if you're just writing music and you're not jamming at the time, this is a good tool for writing purposes, right? Because then you can
go back and forth,
and you're seeing what the other person's doing, and you can communicate effectively. That's great.
Or if you're using something like Pro Tools that has cloud sessions,
yes, exactly.
You could record something on your end. They could listen to it, record something on their end, go back and forth, and kind of collaborate that way. But you're not going to get a simultaneous jamming together. It's going to be a longer process.
Totally.
Which you'd both have to be aware of going into it. But it's totally possible to songwrite and jam, quote unquote, fully remotely, just not at the same time.
Right. I mean, if you can measure the latency between you guys and time it out perfectly where you begin at the same time, that would be absolutely wild, and I'm very interested in how you would do that. I don't think that's possible.
I don't even think it's possible.
I don't think it's possible. But if you can, I want to know.
I mean, it'd be possible.
That'd be crazy.
It'd be possible, like, let's say you have a drummer and then a couple other musicians, you can, like, measure the latency on that end for each of the musicians, and then jam to the drummer and just have like everyone else muted but the drummer, and then record it and then send it back to everybody else to hear what it sounds like together.
Pain in the fucking ass,
but then you're still going back and forth.
Because it's only going to be one way.
The drummer's not going to hear anything that you're doing.
Exactly. Because
the bassist isn't going to hear what you're doing, because like it'd have to go all out. And then record and then played back afterwards, so there's no playing off each other. It doesn't sound good.
This is crazy. That's crazy to think about. So now that we kind of got like the more top of funnel apps out of the way, the most basic ones, let's go into more specific ones for...
Let's niche down.
Yeah, dude, let's niche down. Let's go into more specific ones for like a studio band, session musicians, audio engineers, all that good stuff.
For hire.
For hire people. Yep. You want to take the first one?
The first one is the biggest one, Fiverr.
Sean knows that one well.
I do, because I've used it myself. I've used it for hiring other musicians and vocalists, providing backing tracks on sessions that I've gotten, like in the studio. Like I had one client who was looking for a female backing vocalist for kind of like harmony and kind of a duet sort of deal, and he just didn't know anybody locally, and didn't really want to go out and do like an audition process or anything like that. So we're like, let's just find somebody remote who puts out good quality stuff and see what they do. And it worked out really well. Vocalist killed it. And it's just a good platform for specifically that, for session musicians, for like one-time things. And if they work out well, then you can, as I said, go back to them and they can be your consistent thing. Fiverr is one of the cheapest platforms to do this. Oftentimes, because of the cost compared to the value of it, the people who you contact on Fiverr, they're either not going to have like the highest quality recording stuff.
Sure.
They're not going to have the most experience. And if they do, they're going to be on the very expensive end of the platform. So if you're going there to save a budget, it can be hit and miss as to kind of what you're getting. And oftentimes, because the price, like, they have to know what they're getting paid hourly. So it might say like, oh yeah, you get a couple revisions, but we were like, I worked with this one artist who contacted a Fiverr pedal steel player, because pedal steel players are really hard to find.
Oh yeah, very much so. Yeah.
So we found a Fiverr pedal steel player. The files honestly sounded fantastic.
Yeah, shit. I might actually ask you for that. I'm working on a song right now that I might need one. So
we'll do. Yeah. Really good sound. The player was really good. The miking from it was really, really solid. But the timing wasn't tight, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's not like he's practicing the song for hours and hours in rehearsal to then go to the studio and lay down a good take. He probably did 2 or 3 takes, sent the best one over, and that was what I got. So in the studio, I had to do some time adjustments and things like that in post. Now with pedal steel, because of how long and slow it is, it was basically unnoticeable once it was adjusted timing-wise.
Totally.
And we put a little bit of reverb on it, a little extra to kind of smooth it out, and it sounded fantastic. But for some instruments that are more rhythmic or percussive, that might not be the route to go, because you're going to need something really tight in order to actually like fill the needs that you need. And just because of the cost versus time thing on those platforms, you're not getting someone who can afford to put that much time into rehearsing your song and then send it back and then get a couple revision tweaks and then put that much more time learning the new one. It's going to be, okay, here's an idea, throw it down, send it back, make revisions, send it back, make like as time efficient as possible.
Yeah, totally.
So Fiverr's a great one, but if you have a little bit of a budget and you really want that higher quality sound, I would recommend going to someplace else.
Yeah, like Musiversal. Did I say that right?
I think so.
Musiversal.
Yeah.
That's a tough one to say for me. I don't know why. I read it and it just doesn't click.
Musiversal.
Musiversal is interesting because this is definitely on the higher end of costs.
Yes.
And depending on how long you keep it, it can definitely be on the higher end of cost for sure. But if you're like 1 month, 2 month thing, try it out. Maybe not as much of a time or monetary investment, but basically what this allows you to do is have access to 100 plus studio musicians for remote recordings, which is really cool.
Yeah. So currently it's $199 a month.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. A month.
A month. Yeah.
Yeah. Not a year.
Yeah.
A month.
But the more I look into it, honestly, kind of the cooler it sounds.
Yeah. And
especially for someone who likes to compose. It sounds like great resources. So if you want to talk more about it.
I mean, like, I just want to say in comparison, just in terms of like price, right? Like, I think you and I look at that price and say, actually, that's not that bad.
It's not.
Compared to
It's
what
really
you
not.
would pay in real life, right? Having somebody come out to the studio will cost you at least $100 or more, right? And that's on top of playing on your stuff and practicing it. And then not only that, but you're also paying for studio time, which can be 50, 60, 70, 80, $100 an hour. And at that point, if he lays it down an hour and you paid him $100, well, you just paid $200, you know? So
for both the artist and the studio.
Yep, exactly. So you kind of like save money this way. And the cool part about this app is that you can actually see them do it live with webcam feed and everything, and I think give them real-time feedback.
What you basically said earlier with the Zoom call is like they're doing a live stream session. So it's basically you're not jamming with them, but it's like you're behind the glass. You're in the mix room and they're the ones performing, giving them performance notes and whatnot. And it's a subscription-based thing where you have access to all these session musicians. There's drummers, brass players, string players, guitarists, vocalists, so much percussionists, everything out there. This is a service that I would really want to look more into.
Me too. I'd be definitely interested in looking into it more.
I think there's currently a wait list.
That's what it said.
I think they're pretty booked at the moment. They might be trying to expand,
which is really cool and very promising, you know, because not only will more people use it, and it can also help bring down the cost a little bit more, but then they might have to hire more too. So it might, I mean, don't quote me on this, but this could be a very big potential thing, especially if the quality that you get from it's really nice, you know, and like I would definitely be interested into for like more of the niche stuff, like you were kind of
Yeah.
talking about, like the orchestral stuff, the brass stuff, lap steel, you know, like anything, you know, like that. Where opposed to like maybe guitars and stuff, like I know people, you know people, we know bassists, we know drummers, you know, might not use it as frequently for that, but that doesn't mean we couldn't though.
No, and as mentioned, if you're out in the middle of nowhere, knowing that you have access to a good studio drummer, a good studio violinist, a good studio trumpet player or sax player, or some backing vocalists, as well as like they got producers and engineers on that side as well. Knowing that you have that allows you to think of your own songs like, man, what if I composed this sort of thing on the trumpet for this song? Well, now you can just book your session with the trumpet player in that service and flesh out that idea instead of having to go and find like on Fiverr, okay, this guy looks like he could be good on trumpet.
Totally.
Now I got to find the sax player. Now I got to find the guitar player. It's like all in one kind of thing for one solid rate. Use it as much as you can, and you just have access to it.
Yeah. Right now, I'm looking up the actual process of applying here, so that way you are rest assured that you're getting quality here. And there's a whole application process, and I'm pretty sure you probably have to interview. Wow, this is a lot. So
this is a play, like be one of the people that plays.
Yeah. So they definitely vet people. This isn't just people that can sign up willy nilly. Like they actually hire people here and pay them a salary.
Yeah.
Like this is not just a quick exchange of things and where people can just make an account and you get some beginner, right? And then you're like, damn, what the hell? These are actual musicians that they vet. So rest assured, you know that you're getting quality when you're using this. I feel like we're sponsored by them. We're not.
Yeah, this is not sponsored.
But we're really excited about this. So.
And this is also something that like I haven't personally used, and Nar has Brandon.
Yeah.
But the concept, the idea of it just makes so much sense, especially since we're in such a digital age where a lot of composition happens solo. It's a awesome way to get that collaboration over the internet, and honestly a way that doesn't break the bank. In terms of how much it would cost relative to something else.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I love that one. You wrote down this next one and you have experience with it. You want to talk about VAMPR?
Yeah, sure. So VAMPR is an social media app for musicians that's specifically built around artists finding other artists. So on your profile, you put on what music, like what instrument you play, whether you're a bassist, guitarist, or you're an engineer, or what it is. You put your pictures up, like your promotional photos
it's
or
like
whatnot.
Tinder
a little bit of
for
description.
Music.
It kind of is.
Yeah,
it kind of is. People can like search up their area, search up what kind of musician they're looking for, and reach out and like have a conversation.
So cool.
Yeah. Message you in your DMs about like, hey, you play guitar. You like what kind of music you like? You put down the genres, the artists that inspire you.
That guitar's looking spicy, bro.
Yeah.
Just saying. You got spicy licks, bro.
Man, that bass is fat, thick, boy. But no.
Slide in the DMs.
Exactly. Slide in the DMs for that thick ass bass.
No trouble.
But yeah, no, you put so much information about like what genres you like, what musicians inspire you, things you've worked on, artist profile pictures, what you're looking for. Like, hey, I'm looking to be part of a band. So if somebody else just happens to come across you and they're looking to start a band, they can reach out to you. It seems it's not a huge app, but it is one of the bigger ones, if not the biggest social media app specifically meant for musicians. I don't know if this is international, but I do know that it's used decently in the States. There's also a new one that I found called Band Friend. It's got about 1/10 of the reviews of VAMPR. I think it's, as I said, I think it's newer. But it's pretty similar. It's another place to kind of start looking, maybe make a profile out there, check it once every couple of days and see if anybody hits you up, or you can scroll and hit other artists up and just kind of see what happens through it. But
and I know the next one on here is kind of like the same thing, Air Gig. I think it's more similar to Fiverr though, but more specifically just tailored to music in general. You kind of just hire somebody, whatever their rate is on there. It's definitely not Fiverr pricing. Not Fiverr pricing. You will be paying a little bit more. Not exactly sure what the process looks like in terms of creating an account and who they vet or how they vet. But I wanted to throw this on here because that was just some preliminary research that we did.
Preliminary research that we did.
So I just want to throw that up there that it is an option. I don't know too much about it, but it's out there for your disposal if you want to check it out though. Yep. And I put this on here just because I thought like it might be applicable to some people. But for like engineers, producers, things like that, there's tools like Sound Better that you can go to and hire out.
You missed the best sites.
Did I?
Yeah, you did. For engineers, the best sites to go to are studio222recordings.com and swsrecordings.com. Why would you go to Sound Better when you can go to us?
Self-promotion, dude. That's perfect.
That's the way to go. Don't even mess with Sound Better or Fiverr or all that for engineers. Like, I mean, I'm just kidding. You know, there's so many genres out there.
But you're not wrong.
We only specify it. Well,
Yeah,
you do all sorts of music. You're a mad lad.
I'm wild. Yeah.
I just do folk, acoustic,
That's true.
and blues and rock.
That's true.
But for anybody, anything else at a brand, Studio 222 Recordings. That's where you go for a top tier engineer.
I'm gonna get you to do a hip hop track one day. I'm gonna get you to do it.
I have.
I know you have.
I know.
Way back in the day. Well, I'm gonna get you to come out of retirement though.
I'm pretty happy I'm retired. Moving on.
I'm just saying.
But just kind of a quick summary for some additional resources. If you're looking for, if you are looking in the local scene, you can go to like local event directories, see what kind of thing is happening. Just Google like events near me or things like that, or sites like Eventbrite or Meetup to find like open mic nights, local gigs, community events, and all that for networking. See what bars have, you know, shows happening that night or whatnot, and even just hit a conversation with the band, like, hey, you know, how long have you been in the band? Like, how did you guys meet?
Totally.
You know, we can ask them, like, how did you guys meet? It's hard to meet other musicians here. What do you do?
Yeah.
And try to like get part of into that scene in that way by working with those people that you go to see live.
Yep.
And being in person and supporting them in general can be helpful. And if they are playing a bar gig, buy them a beer.
Yeah.
They'll tell you all their secrets if you buy them a beer.
That is true. That is true.
I know that because I've seen it.
Yeah.
And then like locally online forums, like you can go to Reddit or things like that if you really want to talk to other musicians.
Specifically the r/musicians you can go beyond.
It's super broad, but
dude, man, I've seen.
There's people there.
I'm a part of it.
Oh, you are?
I'll see some posts pop up. People are fucking mean on Reddit, dude. So you got to be really thick-skinned to kind of be able to go on there. And
the memes are funny though.
The memes are fucking hilarious. People are just fucking mean, man. So, but yeah, that's absolutely 100%. That you can definitely do that. Gear Space is also a good way maybe to find engineers as well.
It could be.
I think they maybe have specific threads for that. But they're very specific on their rules that they have. You know, so make sure you're not, like I said, breaking any forum rules or anything like that, so you don't get kicked out of that resource because it can be a nice resource. Yeah. Worst comes to worst, you make a new account, right? But you know, at this point, it's just follow the rules.
Yeah, follow the rules.
Yeah. So that way you can get what you need out of the forums. I don't know any other specific ones that I'd even mention off the top of my head.
No, I think we're good here.
I think so.
Yeah, we covered live, we covered online with a focus on online. How to get like different ways you can find musicians, make your music, get out there. In terms of performing, if you are a completely remote band and you want to do kind of some shows with it, you know, use the backing tracks that you've got. You can have them record a separate take that's less produced that can be used more in a live setting. There are devices that you can stream multi-tracks from if you want to give a front house engineer multiple different tracks for them to work with, not necessarily just hey, here's my left right from my phone that has all the backing tracks that's pre-mixed already. If you want to kind of give them more control or more flexibility, or you want to travel with things that give you that ability to mute things and unmute things and move things around, you can do like an Ableton Live session, or there are devices like the Alesis HD24. It's an old thing, but you can record multi-tracks onto it, and each track has a separate out you can run into a mixer.
Oh, cool.
Or some mixers like the Behringer and the Midas M32, they have like multi-track playback functionality over USB or things like that. So if you're like you're running your own session, bringing your own PA, and you have something like that can play back multi-track, and you can mix it yourself before in every show, that gives you a lot of flexibility as well.
That's cool.
And if you have the time and you have the gear, that might be the way to do it.
Yeah.
Also, like for the show and whatnot, you can put like a projector or a TV or something on stage and have like pre-recorded video of the bandmates performing it, and like have that go on in the background.
Oh, totally.
Of your performance or whatnot, to make it look more like a stage thing. Or be creative, have fun with it, however you want to perform it. But being fully digital does make playing live with a band a little more difficult, unless you then hire other musicians to sit in and just play your gigs with you. But that brings you right back to, well, how do I find musicians to play live with me? So, and for that, just listen back earlier in the episode.
Yeah, pretty much.
How to find local musicians.
Yeah. But
well, hopefully this was helpful.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I mean, like if you go on YouTube and you want some inspiration, there are plenty of people on there that post covers and stuff that collaborate with people in other countries, other states, and then they put them together and make a video out of it, right? So that can be very inspirational. Yeah. And they might even have some tips and tricks on their website, on their YouTube channel too, where it's like, how do you even start doing this? There's plenty of resources out there, so just go tap into the resources that you need and see what you can do and make work for you.
I actually did something like that 8 months ago. I was working with this one artist, and for their single, they hit up specifically session musicians that live in Ukraine.
Oh, okay.
So all the musicians and all the backing vocals on their track for this one single was from Ukrainian musicians.
Nice.
And then when they sold it on Bandcamp and all that, all the proceeds went to a charity to help out Ukraine.
That's awesome.
So like that's using that as, you know, a source of good.
Yeah.
And it makes it not, it's, I'm going to use the word gimmick, but people think that's a bad thing, but it's kind of like the gimmick of like, oh yeah, listen to the song, it's all Ukrainian musicians specifically to help Ukraine. It's a charity thing. And while the person's not making any money on that song, it is getting them out there. So it's also kind of a hidden marketing thing as well as just a good thing to do.
That's like the exposure payment, right? That we often joke about, right? Yeah. And that's where exposure comes from.
Yeah, and if it's part of your game plan, it can be
absolutely
a strategy. Yeah. Just kind of like it's basically just kind of a paid promotion thing at that point on top of
pretty much
putting good out in there. Yep. So yeah, that was a pretty fun project.
That's really cool, dude. That's really cool. You'll have to show me that sometime. Yeah. I've only done one song about Ukraine. And that was with Leah. She wrote a song. She had talked to somebody that was like living over there. And, I know this is off topic, but episode's basically done. So if you're still sticking around listening to this, that's really cool. But yeah, it was really cool though. It was really cool. And like we even incorporated some like kind of like warish elements in there that kind of helped give it that darker tone. Like I actually made a siren out of sine waves and actually looked up like specific sine waves to do so and did the whole Doppler effect thing. I'll have to show you. It's kind of cool.
You'll have to.
But it kind of helped illustrate that point of the story that Leah was telling about this woman in Ukraine that shared her story on Instagram. So, but yeah, no, I thought that was really cool though. So really just I never shared that with you. I've told. That's really cool. Yeah. So now that you brought that up, it reminded me of that. So yeah, no, really cool stuff. Really cool stuff. And hope everybody's safe over there.
I agree. I agree. I did something similar. This is the rambling portion of the podcast.
That's right. You've made it.
We're done. If you want to stick around and listen, you can.
Listen.
So I did a song similar that was used samples and elements of that. So I found a vinyl record at a thrift store that was titled "Sounds of the Military," and it was samples of like airplanes, boats, artillery, gunshots, sirens.
Yeah.
All this stuff from like, I don't know, like 1950, 1960.
Oh shit, yeah.
I mean, it's literally on a vinyl record.
Yeah.
So I like played it back into my DAW and I sampled it and I used those elements in the song.
Dude, that's cool as fuck.
So like everything was like popping and distorted and gritty.
Yeah, dude.
On top of it, and it was just a really fun thing to mess around with.
That's fucking awesome,
some
dude.
Cool composing tools.
Hell yeah, dude.
Composing.
That's cool though. I mean, this is the type of shit that we nerd out on. So yeah, this is what we talk about before we get into the episode.
Yeah, we didn't do that today. We just kind of jumped.
We did. Yeah, we just kind of made coffee. And we were like, let's get to it.
Because we wanted to talk to you because you matter.
That's right.
We wanted to. We were cooking. No, you came in and
Sean and I were lonely. We wanted to talk to you.
With that being said, thank you for joining us in our kitchen today. If you want to contact us directly, you can reach out at podcast@musicmakerscookbook.com. Send us an email. You can also leave a comment on Spotify. Specifically, we're on all podcasting platforms, but you can specifically leave a comment on Spotify to let us know what your thoughts are. Also, if you're listening to this on YouTube or any sort of shorts that we post on TikTok, Instagram, things like that, send us a DM or leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you, especially if you have an idea for an episode you'd like us to cover.
Yes, like today.
In the future. Yeah, like today.
Yeah.
So once again, thank you for giving us the idea. And then moving on from that, if you want to contact us individually, like we said, for mixing, mastering, engineering, and whatnot, the best websites to go to,
Studio222recording.com.
That's the best one.
No, say the other one.
No.
Say the other good one. Say the other good one.
Studio222recording.com.
Oh my God. All right. Well, you can go to Studio222recording.com and find out more about what I do. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. I do recording, mixing, mastering on audio and in general. I know I say all types of music. I'm just going to say on audio because audio is fun. It is fun. But yeah, like I like to learn more about your project, you know, if you're interested in working together. So there's an inquiry form below the main site that you can fill out and contact me. That's the best way to contact me. But if you prefer to contact me over social media, I don't recommend doing that because I never check it.
I'm just going to stop saying you can contact me on social media.
I think that's easier.
I'm just going to stop saying
it. Don't contact me.
You can follow them, but don't contact me.
You can follow us on social media, but if you really want to reach out on social media, you can. Please don't. I don't prefer that. But if you really want to, STD222 recording is where you can find me at all platforms -X. And then _Random McLeod is my personal, and you can find me more info. You can find more info about me there as well. So on all platforms -X. Sean, what about you?
If you want to work with the second best engineering thing online,
stop. That's not even true. It's the first best, and you know it. No, you know it.
You can contact me
SWS Recordings.
SWSrecordings.com. I do remote mixing mastering for folk, acoustic, rock, and blues. Those are my main genres. I don't deviate from that. So if you're metal, I'm sorry. I'm just not the best engineer for you. Go to Brandon. I love the music. He'll show me the songs afterwards. So like I'll still hear them, but like go to him. On top of that, I do one-on-one artist development coaching and business coaching and whatnot, which is basically this podcast, but specifically towards you and your career, helping to kind of keep have a game plan going, go over your SMART goals, set up a foundation, and hold accountability for you and your music career to help you make a living in this industry quicker and meet your goals and, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Hell yeah.
So be sure to reach out to me on my website. Once again, swsrecordings.com.
Michigan's #1 recording studio.
That being said,
that's not even true.
Thank you for joining in to us at the kitchen today. Hopefully the food that we prepared when we invited you over was to your liking. But we definitely had something prepared for you.
That's right.
Unlike last week where we just kind of bullshitted
We
the whole
did
time.
bullshit a little bit.
It was fun. We deserve it.
I think so.
No, we don't. Anyways, with that being said, from our kitchen to yours.
Bon appetit.